死，皇天當立，歲在甲子，天下大吉。
如果冇亂世，又何來英雄？寧教我負天下人，莫教天下人負我。
我哋兄弟三人不求同生，但求同死。
以後丟前條命就係將軍嘅。
來者斬殺，
變陣。
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So that was the Dynasty Warriors movie trailer. I was going to say the game then. It's inspired by the game for those of you that have played it on the classic PS2, PS3 and also some of the most recent entries on PS4. It's a game to movie adaptation, and to be honest guys, I was really looking forward to this one. I thought, I'm a huge fan, I have been since the first game. When it was in sort of like a Tekken fighting style on the PlayStation. And I was really excited by the trailer. So this is currently on Netflix. And it's put together by Koei, but it's Roy Chow, I think it is, that's directed it and written the story for this movie. So for those of you that don't know anything about Dynasty Warriors, I personally think you're going to hate this movie. Me being a very strong fan, I liked it in places, but even I thought it was a little bit shit. So I'm going to go into detail about the movie. I'm going to give my honest thoughts and opinions on it, guys, and I will explain as to why, what I enjoyed about it, what I didn't enjoy about it, and whether I feel you should watch this or not. So as I said, that's the trailer in the bag. It's, in all honesty, that does show the best bits in the movie, which I know is the whole purpose of the trailer, but it literally does show the best bits in the film. Just to give you a bit of an idea of what happens and the whole story of the film, it's based over, for those of you that have played the original Dynasty Warriors games, and especially Dynasty Warriors 2 onwards, the setting for the film is the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which is headed up by none other than Chang Zhao, and it spans over the Yellow Turban Rebellion at the beginning. It sort of lasts 10-15 minutes, and then we jump into the next section of the story, which is the Hulao Gate, which is really fun to play in the game. It's where you first meet Lu Bu, who is the ultimate badass powerhouse, and no bugger can kill him. So Lu Bu is in the film, but I'll go into a lot more of that in a second, but that's where the setting is in the game. What really frustrated me is that Chang Zhao didn't really have much screen time. He's the main bad in the first level in all of the games when you go forward with the Yellow Turban Rebellion, regardless of which character you pick, and he doesn't get much time on screen. What's really odd is that they defeat Chang Zhao, as we know, and then he retreats, but in the very next scene there's just a bit of dialogue that says Chang Zhao was captured and killed, and it's like, oh, okay. So they built up suspense, they built up a good battle in the beginning, it was a good opening scene, it was a good way to introduce the characters and the big bad, and then they just killed off the big bad in the very next scene with dialogue. Literally, with dialogue. And I was a bit like, it's a bit strange. Anyway, the crux of the film is it's based around the three Shu characters, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Shang Fei. They're all brilliantly acted, but I just want to say, really great casting for these characters. Very true to the game, very true to the lore. Shang Fei is a little bit of a loose cannon, just wants to get stuck in and destroy people. Liu Bei is very strategic in his thinking, he's very loyal to the Han, and he wants to do what's right to the Emperor and do what's right on paper, basically. He always takes the moral high ground, always says and does the right things. He's your typical golden boy, basically. He wants to be, you know, he's not in it for himself. He's not in it for any kind of personal gain or power. He just wants peace and he wants people to live prosperly. Guan Yu also is an absolute beast in the movie. I really, really liked Guan Yu. He's probably my favourite character in the whole film. In the game, he is also one of my favourites, but to be honest, you don't get much of a sense of what he's like in the games. He acts as one of the bodyguards for Liu Bei, but aside from that, that's pretty much it. You don't get much feel for his character. We may see that in upcoming games of the series, who knows. But me personally, I find him normally a little bit of a bland character, but I thought he was really good in this movie. He was really well acted, and he was really passionate about, again, following Liu Bei, not just in terms of him being his commander, but he was also following him as a brother, following him because he was loyal, and again, just wants to do the right thing. Moving over to characters now, so there's a few interesting names in this film, so some that I really enjoyed and some that I hated, and also some that I thought should have been in there that weren't. Overall, I feel the characters were rushed. Now, I know there's loads and loads of really cool characters in the Dynasty Warriors series, and they can't get them all in. This is kind of set before the Three Kingdoms period, so the big names, my favourite, Shahu Dun's not in it, Su Zhu's not in it, Taishi Ci's not in it, and for those of you that haven't seen the Dynasty Warriors games or played them, you're probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about? You're just throwing random names at me now, and I kind of am, but the ones that do know the games really well and know the characters really well will recognise who these characters are. You get glimpses of Zhao Yu, but he doesn't talk. Sun Jian's in it. But all the big names that I've known and loved from the games are not in it, which is a big shame. But again, it could just be the setting of it. But I know that Shahu Dun was in the Yellow Turban Rebellion and he was in the battle at Hulao Gate, but he's not in the movie. So cheesed me off straight away. Going back to characters and talking about characters, so Chang Zhao, the leader of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, the first big bad that we see in the movie, absolutely shite, terrible acting. He, for some reason, he becomes some sort of a wizard like Saruman, and he starts firing air and water out of his ass. No, not his ass, but you know what I'm trying to say. He just, he just flings it everywhere, and it's... I'll get into the, the mechanics of the movie in a second and why I didn't enjoy it, but I know this is based on a game, and the game itself is over the top. The acting's over the top. The fighting's over the top. You get one warrior that can take out thousands, and they do replicate that in the movie. And I'm not saying, they shouldn't have done that and they should have made it more realistic because it is a game adaptation, but I would have liked a little bit more realism in there. I would like Chang Zhao to be a real menacing character. He formed a rebellion off the back of peasants and people that were poor. He basically brainwashed them and made them join his army, and I didn't get any sense that he was a menace. I didn't sense that he was a tyrant, but in the games he is, and it takes all of them under the Han Dynasty to unite together to overthrow him, and I didn't get a sense that he was a threat whatsoever. He gets shot through the chest by Liu Bei, and then he retreats, just runs off, and then in the next scene the dialogue basically just says he died, and I'm like, oh, okay. It does that quite a lot as well, guys. It jumps from A to B to C very quickly. Sometimes it fills it in with dialogue. Sometimes it doesn't bother. And it just says 3 years later. And then Liu Bei just says, oh, so-and-so died in the last, and then you're like, what? It jumps around quite a bit. It feels rushed in a lot of places. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second. But Chang Zhao was a write-off character. Really, really crap. Really disappointed with how they written him in. And he has this really weird moment where he almost acts like the Night King from Game of Thrones, when he sort of raises his arms and then all the dead just stand up and start eating people. That happens, and I'm like, what? I don't think he ever did that in the games, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had the power of wind and he had the power of destruction and moving earth, basically. He never ever resurrected the dead, but quote me if I'm wrong on that, guys, but I played Dynasty Warriors 1 right all the way to Dynasty Warriors 8, Empires. And I never ever recalled Chang Zhao having that bloody power. He literally was like the Night King. He just raised all the dead soldiers and they just started chewing people, including the horses, which is a bit weird. But I didn't like it. It didn't fit well in the story. It didn't fit well with the character. And despite that power, he still got his ass kicked. He was able to resurrect the dead, yet he still got his ass handed to him on a plate. So it just didn't fit right. It was just weird. So that was that. In general, the dialogue, the acting, and the outfits are very over the top. The uniforms of the Shu brothers, so Shang Fei, Liu Bei, and Guan Yu, are true to the game. Very, very accurate in terms of the outfit. So well done to the costume department for that one. Characters as a whole, actors as a whole, I really, really liked the Shu brothers, but every other character felt really bland. I'll talk about Cao Cao in a minute. He was the worst in the film, and in the games he is one of the main characters. So they crapped all over his character as well, which is, I don't know. I was expecting a lot more, and I'm a fan of this series. I really want this to do well. I really wanted the film to do well. But when I got to the end, I was just like, what is going on? It felt like they were just trying to cram 7 or 8 series worth of games into one film, and it just didn't fit whatsoever. I would sooner, or rather they would have just blew most of the film over the Yellow Turban Rebellion, build up the characters, make us feel invested in them, make us want to know what they're about, what their background is, why they want to fight for the dynasty, what their motives are. Almost like Game of Thrones, you know, there should be some characters that we hate, there should be some characters in there that we can aspire to. There's some characters that we laugh at, that we enjoy watching. I didn't get that with any of them. At a very, very big push, I liked Guan Yu's character, but he was the only character in the whole film that I felt quite connected to. And it was just because of his passion, his undetermined loyalty. He was persevering over everything, just being outright badass in the face of danger. I really liked his character. But other than that, it just fell flat. And when you're trying to make a movie out of a game adaptation where the game itself is based on huge names and huge characters in Chinese history and lore, you need to nail it. You need to get it right. You need to be invested in all these characters. You need to be worried about what happens to these characters in the next scene. But I didn't give a shit. I did not give a shit what happened to any of them. And that's bad. That's bad writing. I should want to know more about, like I said, the connection between the characters, the arc. I would want at least one of them to do well in the next scene, or at least one of them to die. I wanted to hate one of them. I didn't even hate Lu Bu. He was pitched as the bad guy. I just felt sorry for him. He fell in love with Diao Chan as he does in the games. And in the end, he's just fighting for his own cause, which is no different than Liu Bei and Cao Cao. You know, I don't know. CGI was okay in some scenes, but overall it was very bad. I don't know what kind of budget they had for this movie, but overall it was terrible. Especially the big pan-in shots when they were doing the big battles and you've got thousands of people. I understand they probably didn't have the budget to pay that many extras to come in costume and to do the fight scenes like they did with Game of Thrones and stuff like that. I completely understand that. But if that's the case, get a very good CGI engine, or at least use an engine that you know is reliable for large-scale battles. It's a movie about a game that is built on large-scale battles, and the CGI just couldn't cope with it. It looked horrible. Even in the opening scene where the Yellow Turban Rebellion is kicking off and the massive fight just erupts, all the different generals from the Han Dynasty are running in, and you've got this big camera swooping shot of the scene. It looks horrendous. You can just tell it's computer generated. It's all sort of matchstick men. It just looks very, very choppy. You'll understand what I mean. Just watch the first 10 minutes of the movie on Netflix and you'll understand exactly what I mean. The movie, I watched it in English dubbed. You can watch it in Cantonese with subtitles if you want to, or English with subtitles. You've got some options, but I watched it in dubbed English. That was probably also a bad move because the English dub on the whole wasn't great either. In some cases it was good. Guan Yu's both Cantonese and English voice actor was really good. Same with Liu Bei. Cao Cao, annoying as fuck. And Liu Bu was okay. And Liu Bu's supposed to be the main badass. He's, apart from Dong Zhuo, who's in it as well, he's meant to be the main badass, and he just looked like an old man. There was also this hilarious scene where they were going to Hulao Gate, and Huang Xiang comes in, and he's supposed to be the best, fighter in the district for Dongzhuo. Sends him in, and all the generals are fighting him, and there was just this really stupid bit where he just kept chopping people's heads off with his sword, and the heads just kept flying about 3 miles into the council chamber where they were having this deliberation about the war, and the head just flew in there, and it was just rolling around in the pit, and every few seconds it would cut to another general fighting him. He'd chop his head off. There was just this weird thing where the heads were just flying everywhere, and it looked really bad. But the people in the movie, the actors and the characters, were trying to make it as serious as possible, but it was just damn right funny. There was just heads flying everywhere, and you just couldn't take it serious at all. So that was that. There was a nice touching moment between Diao Chan and Lu Bu. Diao Chan is being married off to Dong Zhuo, and as we know from the game, she doesn't want to do that. She wants to be her own free person, but she's married to him, and likewise in the games, she ends up getting married to him because Lu Bu's out fighting, and he gets to her too late, and basically she's already married to Dong Zhuo. But as we know in the games, which is probably going to come on after this movie, Lu Bu goes to rescue Diao Chan. He betrays Dong Zhuo, creates his own army, and marries Diao Chan, and they become this power couple, basically. We don't get all of that in the movie. All we see is Diao Chan wants to go and commit suicide. She goes to walk into the lake. Lu Bu sees her while scouting the countryside ahead of the fight, stops her going in and says, you don't have to marry him. You can marry me. I'll look after you, all this kind of stuff. They sort of fall in love, but you don't really get enough time with them to feel that there is a relationship and a connection there. It really just feels like Lu Bu is saving her ass. And because we don't get that time with Lu Bu, we don't get that character arc and that build-up. In the scene prior, he's murdering thousands of people, and you hate him, and you think, oh yeah, he's an asshole, and he's pitched as an asshole, an obvious asshole. But then in the next scene, he's stopping some random girl that he shouldn't really care about from committing suicide, and I'm like, well, where's this passion coming from? And we don't get enough time with the characters, which is a big flaw throughout the whole movie, to be honest. You don't get enough time to really feel for these characters and really feel what their agenda is. It's all over the place, really, guys. It really is. As I said, it jumps in story. 1 minute you're watching a battle in Yellow Turban Rebellion, then you're at Hulao Gate. Then it's like you got some really weird filler scenes in between where they walk into this forest where there's a weird witch lady that gives out magic weapons, and that helps you defeat people. And the more people you kill with those weapons, the more stronger the weapons become. It's as ridiculous as it sounds. I don't know why that was in there. It's not in the game. It's not in the lore. I just didn't understand it. As I said, going on to the characters, so the main names that you can see in this movie are Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Shang Fi, Yuan Shao's in it, and he had the facial representation, the costume, and the dialogue to a T. Yuan Shao's character is really good in the movie. Sun Jian's in it, but he kind of doesn't really say much. He's got a couple of lines, and you don't see him fight at all. Lu Bu is quite a pivotal character in the movie, as he is in the game. He's one of the main characters. I love Lu Bu's story, and for any of you that want to just play through as Lu Bu and learn more about his backstory, I think it's on Dynasty Warriors. It might be 7 or 8 Extreme Legends or something like that, and it's got the picture of Lu Bu on the front of it, on the cover box. And the main campaign is all just about Lu Bu. So if you guys love Lu Bu in terms of his character like I did, go and play that game. It's a real good one. But jumping back to the movie, so Lu Bu's character, costume design is okay, but in the games, Lu Bu is hench as you like. He's very tall, he's very broadly built. In the movies, is an average height guy, if not shorter than most of the people in the movie, and he looks old. They probably went with that character and that actor probably to show knowledge or skill, or because he's older, he's going to have experience in battle. I understand you don't want to go with someone too young, but I personally would have gone with a younger actor that was taller and a lot more broader built, just to give this sort of presence of fear, intimidation, and then all the stuff that he did in the movie, trying to push over that intimidation and fear to other characters would have helped a lot more because of his physique and stuff. But Liu Bei was a very odd pick. I don't know why they went with that actor. There is probably a reason. I'm not the casting director. I don't get paid millions to do this stuff, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But you know what I'm trying to say. It's there could have been a better pick, and I don't know why they went with that character, to be honest, in that way. Cao Cao is the absolute asswipe of this movie, guys. He is, in my opinion, more hated than Dong Zhuo. Dong Zhuo is supposed to be the main villain, and he is on paper, but Cao Cao done my absolute head in this film. There is no rhyme or reason to his character arc. He just comes across very spoiled, very selfish, vindictive, manipulating, and his laugh just does my head in. He just every other line he's like says something, he goes ha ha, and then just walks away, and I'm like, just get out of here, you asshole. Just get out of here. He absolutely done my head in. I hated him more than the villain in the game, and that just goes to show how bad the casting was, how bad the dialogue was, and how bad the acting was for this character. The character arc itself made absolutely no sense. 1 minute he is serving the Han in the Yellow Turban Rebellion, and I think, yeah, cool, this works. And in the next scene, he's basically asleep, and he has this vision of this village where these people have just saved him, and he has this vision in this village where everyone's betrayed him, and they've handed him over to people that have put a bounty on his head. So he wakes up, he hears someone sharpening a knife, and he looks out the window and he thinks they're getting ready to murder him. So he goes out and slaughters the whole village. But actually, his little helper guy that's with him says, oh, they were just probably sharpening the knife to murder the pigs over there. And he goes, oh yeah. Well, we can't live with the shame. They leave the village. They meet the old guy that saved him and brought him to the village in the first place, just outside of it. He admits to the old guy that he's made a mistake. He murdered all the people in the village, including the old guy's family. Old guy gets understandably upset. And Cao Cao, instead of going through an arc of redemption of some kind, paying his dues, he just stabs the old guy, kills him as well. And his little helper friend after says, well, why did you do that? And he just says, it's all about the Empire. We need to do what we need to do. These people don't really matter. And I'm like, Cao Cao in the games is a very good, strong character. Although he's got his different principles and he's driven differently to, say, Sun Jian and Liu Bei, which is the Battle of the Three Kingdoms. But I didn't like him at all. They portrayed him as this spoiled, rotten, twisted, manipulative, evil guy that is just outright up his own ass and just does what he wants to do. And that's not true to the lore of the game. They did it with some of the characters, and I get that they probably want to pitch Cao Cao and Liu Bei as the end fight or the final boss fight, which is probably going to come in future movies because they have a little duel and it's so obvious. Liu Bei's got all white attire on, Cao Cao's got an all black attire on, and it's good versus evil, and it's just rammed in your face. It's so obvious that they're building these two up to fight. They don't fight in the movie because the movie is set before the Three Kingdoms battle, and I get a sense that there's going to be another film, God forbid, I hope it's better, where they're really gearing up Cao Cao and Liu Bei to have the final fight. Sun Jian is no threat, so they have to really do something drastic in the next movie, if there is going to be one, to make him a legitimate contender in all this. But yeah, Cao Cao's character arc was atrocious. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. He kills people that think are going to assassinate him just because he's paranoid, because one woman in a village once gave him up for gold, and he managed to escape and had a little fight with Lu Bu and ran, and he's paranoid, but he's also egotistical at the same time, so it just doesn't add up. It's almost like there's three different people in one with Cao Cao, and none of it's true to the lore of the game either, so that's a real shame. The only thing I did really like about the movie and the game actually, is the music. So the music is very, very true to the game. It's sort of like a house rock, sort of. It gets you pumped, and it is true to the music of the soundtrack of the games as well. You'll notice the main theme tunes in there. Some of the themes from the original Dynasty Warriors game, and I think it was the third or fourth one, is in there as well. But it just, the slightly different tempo and there's a particular scene where you've got a landscape. It's just before the Hulao battle, and the main theme is played over a classical piano, and I thought that was really, really cool. Nice little touch, similar to what the Square Enix studio did with the Final Fantasy VII remake. They took some of the original sounds and the original music and sort of weaved it into a new genre of music, but you still had hints of the original soundtrack in there. They did the same with this, and that was the one thing that I did enjoy. Closing thoughts, guys. It's too much like the game. Now, that sounds crazy, I know, because you want a movie to be like the game, but there's movies like Mortal Kombat, even Tomb Raider, I'm going to say it, and even that was quite bad. Not the Angelina Jolie one, the other one. Sorry, I can't remember what her name was, the more recent one. I enjoyed those more. Most of the time, when you get a movie adaptation of a game, it's crap. It's really crap. But I personally enjoy some of the Resident Evil films. I enjoy the Tomb Raider films. It's particularly the newer one. And I'm excited for the Borderlands movie. I really like the Mortal Kombat movies. But apart from that, guys, this is too much like the game. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's too over the top. If you've ever seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, it's like that on steroids. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a great movie, but it was great for its time. It's moved on. We don't want to see all these people on wires, like, running 5 miles in the air, swinging their swords around. I personally don't want to see that. I don't want it to sound like I'm shitting on it just for that reason. It just feels like they're trying to bring something that worked for its time into the present, where the present has already moved on. That's what I'm trying to say. Also, the fighting mechanics in the game, so when you've got like the Muso mode where you just do some crazy attack and take out thousands of soldiers, that's in the movie, and it sounds promising and it looks promising when you see it in the trailer, but believe me when I say the best bits of the fighting are in the trailer. I wouldn't say it's legit and it's realistic, but it's more believable than the swooping shots and the anime style Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan powers. You didn't need that. You didn't need that in the movie, personally. I get that it's kind of true to the game, because in the game you can power up your weapons and there is some sort of lore to the Musu modes that they do. And especially in the later games, it is elemental based. So you've got fire, air, water, ice, lightning, and they all form part of the magical powers of the weapons in the game. But I personally didn't feel that was needed. This was sort of pushing an anime style of combat, and I don't think you can mix the two, personally, especially with this type of story and especially with this type of movie adaptation that it is. So the fighting was over the top, the acting was over the top, it was incredibly cheesy at some points, the characters weren't believable. There was only 1 or 2 characters that I really liked. Lu Bu was okay, and as I said, the characters that really did fit, like Yuan Shao, Sun Jian, they don't get any fight scenes. None whatsoever. So the characters that actually look true to their counterparts in the game, and the acting's kind of good as well, with the very few lines that they have, they don't have any battles. They don't have any fight scenes, they just talk. So, bit of a letdown. I really do feel that this movie was rushed. I really feel that it didn't have any sense of direction. I feel that it was just a group of people that are passionate about the game. They got pissed up one night and said, imagine if we made a movie about Dynasty Warriors, and one guy just went, fucking good A, let's do it, come on. And I really do feel that that's it. That is all that was put into this movie. Let's go out and cast some people. The acting, as I said, wasn't great. It didn't help that I watched it in English dubbed language, guys, but to be honest with you, just thinking about the scenes and thinking about the acting in general, language aside, it was naff anyway. It could have been in Swahili and it still would have been shit. It was just... It felt like a really, really bad B-movie, and I think Netflix really want to push this. They really want to go into another genre, because you guys have probably heard that they're going to be creating a gaming platform of some kind. I think it's called Endgame or Endgames. They're teaming up with PlayStation or Sony, and they're going to be putting out some kind of... I don't know whether it's going to be game streaming content like PlayStation Now, or Steam, where you can purchase games online and play it for your PlayStation, or you can rent them. I don't know. I'm quite excited for it, I have to say. But I think this is where they're going. Netflix are trying to push their game game base and pull in the gaming fans. So this is their first step into doing that, but they did it very badly. I'm not saying Netflix personally, but the whole movie is a shit show, and this is coming from a very, very strong Dynasty Warriors fan. When I first saw this pop up on my coming soon list on Netflix, I was very excited. When I watched the trailer, which you guys have just seen, I was very excited, but believe me when I say they showed the best bits in the trailer, all of them. Every single one is in the trailer. Everything else that you see in the movie is filler. A lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of the acting is choppy. A lot of the storyline just jumps from A, B to Z, and there's no explanation. The character arcs are all over the place, apart from Guan Yu and Liu Bei. They are the only ones that are true to their characters in the game and are believable in the movie. As I said, the other ones that we do care about, Sun Jian, Yan Shao, they have next to no dialogue, and they're not in any fights. Lu Bu is a weird character in this movie as well. His could have been improved, but he was okay, sort of. Diao Chan was interesting, but she comes across very innocent, weird, but in the game she's quite a strong female character. And that might play out in the next movie if she sort of stands up to Dong Zhuo and she goes and marries Lu Bu properly. She might come out of her shell and then become a badass, who knows? Who knows? But they did leave the movie open, guys, for a sequel. It ends with Cao Cao going to Liu Bei's camp and they start talking about what the future holds. Liu Bei says, I want what's right for the emperor. Cao Cao says it should be what's right for the world, and the world can only be at peace when I conquer it. So Cao Cao is already putting in the foundation to do what he wants to do. He wants to take on the world. He wants to destroy everybody in it if they're against his way of thinking, whereas Liu Bei is true to the emperor and his ideology. So they're already setting up Liu Bei and Cao Cao as the main protagonists in the next movie. I don't know how Lu Bu's going to fit in that. I don't know what's going to happen to Shang Fei, Guan Yu, or whatever. But it's a shame because I feel they've really, really crammed in too much in this movie. It was a 2-hour-long film, which is quite long anyway by film standards these days. And I still didn't feel that I came away satisfied with the characters that I know and love from the games. I didn't feel that they made much progress at all in anything. They just had a bit of a fight, they just bickered a little bit, and then they're just back to square one, just at a later time. And it just says the battle for the Three Kingdoms has only just begun, or it's about to commence, or something like that. And it's basically hinting that it's then going to lead into what we know as the Battle of like Changban, where Shang Fei also has a stand against, I can't remember who it is now, but he stands against like an army of 10,000 on his own and defeats them and stuff like that. So there's some really interesting and fun, hopefully fun, moments that are coming in the future film or films. I haven't read up to see if there's going to be a promise of another film, but they've left it massively, massively open, and there's a very strong hint at the end of the movie that we're going to get another movie. So Dynasty Warriors 2 is probably coming up in the next couple of years or so. It's a shame, guys. I really wanted this to do well. I really wanted to enjoy it, and I did in some bits. Some bits I thought, that was really cool. The battle in particular with Guan Yu and Shang Fei when they're sort of fighting side by side. I think it's at the Hulao Pass, just before the sort of last half an hour of the movie was really cool. Some of the effects were really good. And even though I hated the magic element on the weapons, they actually made it look believable. It looked less CGI effecty. So that was the part I really enjoyed. Also, the bit with Lu Bu when he just wiped out about 2,000 soldiers that ran at him in the sort of final scenes just before the brothers were fighting him, I thought was really cool. He just went into like Emperor Palpatine mode and just started shooting lightning out of every possible angle, but it just sort of blew all the people up into the air, and then his power just basically went from 1 to 1, just zapping them, almost like a dot to dot. So that was really cool. But apart from that, it was a bland movie, guys. And as I said, this is coming from a very, very strong Dynasty Warriors fan, and it didn't do well at all. Loads of stuff wrong with it. Timing issues, casting issues, prop issues, costume issues, voice acting issues, character arc issues, but the music was okay. And there were some scenes that were quite good. So do I recommend you watch this? Not really. There's loads and loads of other films out there, guys. If you're a very, very strong Dynasty Warriors fan, chances are you've already watched it, or you're debating watching it. All I will say is put aside everything you know about the games, everything you know about the lore of the characters, and just watch the movie for it being a movie. Let go of all your conceptions of the law of physics, let go of all your understanding of gravity and realistic fighting, and you might have a good time. But other than that, go in with an empty frame of mind and just sit there and just watch it for a little bit. But honestly, I feel that you're going to be wasting your time. That's just my opinion. Unfortunately, the film didn't deliver. I hope the gaming platform does, because if it's anything like this bloody movie, we're in for some deep trouble. So I probably will watch the next film when it comes out, and that's not because I liked the first one. It's just because I want to see how they develop these characters. They need to do something because they're all bland as hell. And yeah, is what it is. So there's my thoughts, guys. It's a naff film. Don't waste your time with it. But if you're a massive fan of the series like me, just watch it with less conceptions about what you want to happen, and you'll be okay, I think. Satisfied. Anyway, that is my movie review done, guys, for Dynasty Warriors on Netflix. What is coming next, I hear you say? So in the next few days, I'm going to be filming and recording the next podcast episode with my good friend the V-Man. I will get to editing that next week, so you're probably going to see episode 2 of the podcast out at some point next week. We've just done Returnal, which was amazing. Go and check out that if you haven't seen my final part and review. And we're going to hop straight back into Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom once we've done all that next week. So next week's plan, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom. We're jumping back in on that walkthrough, and we are going to put out the next episode of the podcast. More stuff like this is going to come, guys. More movie reviews, more gaming previews, and more reaction videos. So don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you did enjoy it, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and why not hit the bell icon and be notified of when any other content like this goes live on the channel. Let me know your thoughts on the movie if you've watched it. Do you think I'm being harsh? Did you have the same thoughts? What did you expect from it? And what are you expecting for the next movie? Until then, guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon.